Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to a Las Vegas edition of the Garden Report. We're bringing it inside with Sean Highkin, Rose Garden Report, the most sought after guy in the NBA world right now, just because everyone wants to know what's going to happen with Damian
There's a
Lillard.
little bit going on right now.
Could happen at any day now, feels like.
Oh, it's going to take a while.
Never mind. What's the latest? What's going on right now? I know they're gonna introduce Jeremy Grant on his new deal today, so you'll hear
Tomorrow.
from Joe Cronin tomorrow.
It's
Rather,
happening tomorrow.
where do things stand right now?
I don't think there's really any new developments on either side right now. Dame has made it very clear that he wants to be in Miami. The deal that Miami can offer is not something that the Blazers feel is a fair return for somebody of Damian Lillard's caliber. So there's just not really anything to talk about right now. And so what's going to either happen is another team is going to step in and make an offer that the Blazers, think is a better offer, and they'll go that way, kind of like Cleveland did last year with Donovan Mitchell when he only wanted to go to New York and Utah didn't like what Mitchell was offering or what the Knicks were offering, and the Knicks weren't offering all the stuff they could offer, and then Cleveland came in with a better offer, so they sent him there. That is a possibility. I think it's a possibility that if they don't get an offer that they like, or if the best offer is on the table is the Miami deal, I think there's a possibility that it could play out like the Kevin Durant stuff did last summer, where he starts the season on the Blazers. And I do think, regardless of the stuff that's kind of out there right now, I do think that if that were to happen, or if he got traded to a team besides Miami, I think Dame would show up and do his job and play. He's not Ben Simmons. He's not James Harden. That's just not who he is. And if he is on the team to start the year, I think, then at that point, maybe you revisit it at the deadline. I think so. There's a lot of different ways it would go. All I know right now is that they don't feel that the Miami deal is something that they would be happy with.
Right, and I think everyone knows that, just looking at what it is to offer. It's not the worst deal in the universe, but it's not something...
It's pretty close to the worst. I think it would be the worst return for a star since Powell got traded to the Lakers.
Right, just because you don't have that one piece
you have to get a thing. And Miami picks 7 years out that are probably not going to be good picks because Miami's never bad. That's
a great point.
Miami has missed the playoffs 4 times in the last 20 years. They've missed the playoffs 6 times since Pat Riley joined the organization.
And they're never going to decide to take that.
No, even if they miss the playoffs one year, you're going to probably be looking at the 12th, 13th, 14th pick. Those are not going to be good picks. Whereas the picks that, I know the Rudy Gobert thing is a total outlier, but even, for example, the picks that the Spurs got from the Hawks for DeJounte Murray, or the picks that the Jazz got from the Cavs for Donovan Mitchell, you feel more confident that there's a chance that those could be good picks than you would ever feel about Miami picks being decent picks. And then the young players, I guess, that Miami could offer, I don't think Nikola Jovic profiles as the type of young player that's, going to be the centerpiece of one of these types of deals. And then Tyler Hero on the contract that he's on is redundant with all the guards that Portland has, and so you would have to reroute Hero to a third team. But I don't know if there's a third team that's going to be giving up real stuff for Tyler Hero.
I don't believe it'll be the Nets.
No, I don't see any of that.
Keeps getting kicked around.
I don't see any of that at all.
So why now for Lillard? We've talked so many times. Wanted to make it work in Portland. They looked like they were trying to put a team around him this offseason to keep that going, and that didn't happen. And then he no longer wants to stay now. You said he'll play ultimately anywhere he'll go, but they're putting that message out that he won't, and that it's only Miami. So why this shift from things he said in the past to his approach now?
Well, he did want to make it work in Portland, and truthfully, from what I understand, he still does.
All right.
He lives in Portland. His whole family lives in Portland. He's built a life there. He's built a whole career there. He isn't trying to get out because he wants to go to a bigger market or anything like that. That's not what it's about. He wants to be in Portland, but he wants a chance to compete. And so they had a chance before the draft and just to be clear, I have no issue as somebody who's kind of an objective outside observer and isn't taking anyone's side on this. I don't really have an issue with the way either side has handled this, since around the time of the draft, given, what I've heard about some of the offers that were and weren't out there. I totally understand why Joe Cronin, the Blazers general manager, didn't move the third pick, because there was no deal that was out there for the third pick that wouldn't have been you cannot, especially when Scoot falls to 3, you cannot trade that pick for Brandon Ingram or Zach LaVine or something like that. You can't do that. That's a disaster. So I totally understand why Joe didn't do that. And I also understand why Dame feels the way I've kind of been putting it as like a comparison is Dame is Brett Favre and the Blazers just drafted Aaron Rodgers. And I totally understand why Dame feels the way that he feels about it. So I kind of understand it from all sides. And even right now, I understand why both sides are handling it right now the way that they are. Dame's agent's job is to get his guy where he wants to go. So he's putting out the message that it's Miami and only Miami. And Joe Cronin's job is to, if he's going to trade Dame, make the best deal that he can. And I think they feel like the deal from Miami is not the best deal that they're going to be able to get eventually. So that's just kind of where we are. That's why this is going to take a while, because if there was a viable deal to make with Miami, it probably would have been done already.
So the latest reporting is the Celtics won't get involved here. Seemed like there might have been some level of outreach just to see what the price could be, see what possibilities there are here. But Jaylen Brown remains unsigned. And it seemed like it was going to get done this weekend once they came together in Vegas. It still hasn't as of Sunday as we record this. It seemed easy enough for me, from my perspective, to get this deal done. You offer the Supermax, he signs it. He doesn't have to worry about a trade for a year, and they have him for 5 years of control at that point, or 4, whatever.
6, because it will be a 5-year extension.
Yeah.
Right?
With
so it'll be 6 plus this year, or 5 plus this year.
I have many suspicions why it still isn't done. Some might be Jaylen's hesitancy. Some might be the team wanting to explore all its options, given that they're going to be locking him and Tatum up here pretty soon for about $100 million a year. I feel like there must be some intrigue about this Lillard deal from Boston's perspective, and it would work both ways.
I think it makes a lot of sense if they're going to trade Dame. I don't know if the Blazers necessarily would want Jaylen Brown back in the trade, just because if you're trading Dame, that means you're rebuilding. And then if you're rebuilding, what are you doing? Paying Jaylen, either he's signed 1 year and you're going to extend him. And then what are you doing being on a rebuilding team, paying Jaylen $300 million or whatever that deal is? So I think the way that deal would have to work would be Jaylen would have to go to a third team. And then that third team if the third team was just going to trade for Jaylen, then whatever package of good picks and young players that they would trade, because I think because Jaylen Brown is the age that he is and he is as good as he is, he just made all NBA this year. I think teams would give up real stuff for Jaylen Brown, like good picks, good prospects, like actually good trade return. So the way that I think it would work is you send Jaylen to whatever the third team is, and then whatever those collection of assets is, that's what goes to Portland. And I think if that's something that Boston is interested in, and Portland can find a team that wants Jaylen that is willing to give up real stuff, I think that's something that could work all the ways. I know that Dame has signaled that he only wants to be in Miami, so I don't know what his feelings would be about Boston, but I do know, first of all, like I said, I think he will, wherever he gets traded, even if it's not Miami, he would show up and play, and he wouldn't make it into like a Ben Simmons thing where he's just going to hold out. Like, that's just not who he is as a person. That's just not him. That's not something he would do. But I know that he is very close with Jason Tatum.
Right.
I know that the Celtics need a point guard very badly.
Especially after Marcus Smart.
After losing Marcus Smart, certainly. And I think Dame, just knowing him the way that I know him, he would, once he got there, he may, however he feels about Boston, I don't know really about that one way or the other, but however he feels about living in Boston, he would look around once he got to training camp and be like, okay, we've got we got Jason Tatum, we've got Derek White, we've got Al Horford, we've got Kristaps Porzingis, we've got guys, and we have a real shot. And I think the Celtics with Dame would be pretty clearly the favorites to win the East. So I think he would look at that and say, Jason Tatum's my boy. I've got a shot at contending. I don't love the city, but let's do it.
And from a Celtics perspective, he signed long term. So you really have to do pick. Would we want to pay Brown $50 million a year? Which seems like there's no wiggle room there. I don't think there'll be a lot of negotiation on what his extension price
it's
would be.
It's either they do the max extension or they don't. That's kind of the idea.
Or they swap out that salary for Lillard's $50 million. I know it's going to get up to like 60 in the next extension, but at this point, aside from the age, aside from potential continued upside and growth from Brown, which you might be foregoing here, you do solve a lot of problems on the team, the two biggest ones being ball handling and the play in crunch time, maybe a little bit of leadership as well and intangible stuff in Lillard. And
he has a relationship with Jason Tatum. That's somebody that he would, I know for a fact that's somebody that, however he feels about Boston or whatever the city, like in a vacuum, if you gave him a list of like guys that he could want to play with, I mean, he and Tatum played together on Team USA. They're very close friends. That's somebody that he would be happy about playing with, and that's the franchise player in Boston. So like I think from a basketball standpoint, again, I don't know about the off-court stuff. I don't know about how Dame feels about Boston, but from a basketball situation, that's as good or better of a basketball situation that he could go into as Miami.
The only thing I worry about is the age and the miles.
He'll be fine. He just had arguably the best year of his career, and he only missed time because they shut him down to tank. I fully believe that he would have at least 2 or 3 years left at the level that he's at. And if you're making this trade, if you're Boston, you're making this trade for the next 2 or 3 years because you're trying to contend. So I don't know. To me, I think from Portland's end, if they can find a third team to get Jaylen to that has the kind of stuff that Portland wants. Like
Houston would make sense.
Houston would make. I can't tell you one way or the other whether Houston has interest in this. I know that Jaylen Brown and Ime Udoka are very close, and I'm sure that there would be some interest from both from Ime and from the Rockets and from Jaylen. But if Houston has a lot of interesting young guys, Jabari Smith Jr. is somebody that I think Portland would be interested in there. Tari Eason, they have a ton of picks from all the other.
Still intrigues some people.
I don't know if they trade Şengün, but sure, if they could get Şengün, I would think that's a team to me that checks the boxes of I think they would want Jaylen.
Yep.
And they have real stuff that they could trade that Portland would be interested in.
And you mentioned the tax implications too when it comes to the money.
That's right. There's no state income tax there, which is one of the reasons he wants to be in Miami. So one of the reasons Dame wants to be in Miami. So
Right. I think we're putting the pieces together a little bit.
I could see. This is just to be clear. I have to do the Brian Windhorst. Don't aggregate this thing. I have not heard that this is something that's being talked about. We're just talking about it as a hypothetical. But to me, I mean, I think the question, and you would, Bobby, you would obviously know more about this than I would because you're closer to the Celtics than I am. But it would be what is Boston's interest level in doing this? Because I think from Portland's end, if they could get the kind of real stuff that they want, then I think it's something that could work all the way around. But I just don't know what Boston's level of interest is.
The pause would be the commitment.
Sure.
Especially where everything's being floated that you wouldn't play for Boston. So
but
that needs to turn around at some point.
I don't believe that they would follow through on him not playing for, like, if I'll say this, if he ends up still in Portland at training camp, he will show up and he will play. He will not be away from the team. He will show up. He will do his job. He will be a pro. He may not be happy about it, but he will show up and do his job. He's more wired like Kevin Durant than he's wired like James Harden. He just loves to play basketball more than anything. So whatever team he's on, he will show up and he will play. I fully believe that.
Check out the Rose Garden Report. More Garden reports to come here from Las Vegas. We'll keep an eye on Jaylen Brown. Maybe hear from him or Jason Tatum today at Celtics Wizards later this afternoon. And of course, Blazers Spurs, the game of the night.
No Scoot, though.
No Scoot. Victor Wembanyama, round 2, though. We will enjoy that here and talk to you soon here on CLNS Media, Celtics All Access. Subscribe to the Rose Garden Report for more Lillard coverage and the Scoot era out there in Portland. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks for having me on, man.